Jaden Smith helped bring the Karate Kid back to life in 2010 yet in 2025. When the franchise returned with Karate Kid Legends, he was nowhere to be found. No cameo, no mention, nothing. For millions of fans, that silence was louder than any. Punch. What happened to the young star who once stood next to Jackie Chan and carried the torch of one of Hollywood's most loved martial arts films? Asterisk back in 2010, the world met a new Karate Kid, Jaden Smith. Just 11 years old at the time, stepped into the spotlight in a fresh take on the classic 1984 film. Unlike the original, which followed Daniel LaRusso in America, this reboot was set in China. It followed Dre Parker, a kid who moves to Beijing with his mom and struggles to fit in until he meets a mysterious maintenance man. Mr. Han, played by Jackie Chan. What followed was a mix of hard training, painful bruises, personal growth, and finally, a legendary showdown in the tournament ring. The film wasn't just a hit, it was a global success. It earned over $350 million worldwide and introduced a whole new generation to the spirit of martial arts and the message of self-discipline. Jaden's performance was praised for its heart and energy. Critics noted how he carried the emotional weight of the story, especially during scenes of loss, fear, and determination. Jackie Chan, too, brought a new side to Mr. Miyagi's style, one shaped by grief and wisdom. What made Jaden's Karate Kid so unique was that it stood apart from the original timeline. It wasn't just a copy, it was its own story, with a new culture, new rules, and a deeper focus on Chinese kung fu. It modernized the message without disrespecting the original. Jaden wasn't just acting, he was transforming. He trained in martial arts for months, suffered real injuries, and grew from a child star into someone audiences saw as a serious performer. That transformation made the film work. Viewers believed in Dre Parker because they could see Jaden really earning each moment, especially in the final fight scene, where his kick wasn't just a stunt, it was the result of all his hard work. After the film's success, fans expected a sequel, rumors swirled. Scripts were discussed, interviews hinted at a follow-up. Jaden himself said he'd love to return. Jackie Chan was open to it too. So, what stopped it? That question haunted fans for years. The years passed. Jaden grew up. He moved into music, fashion, and activism. But still, Karate Kid fans remembered him as Dre, so when Karate Kid Legends 2025 was announced, bringing back old characters, honoring the past, and uniting generations, everyone waited for Jaden's name. But it never came. Not in the posters. Not in the cast list. Not in the trailer. Why would the studio leave out the boy who helped reboot the whole franchise? Why would Jaden Smith, once the face of the future of Karate Kid, be erased from the biggest legacy celebration of all time? To answer that, we have to go behind the scenes. In the next section, we'll uncover what happened inside the studio walls and why the decision to leave Jaden out might have more layers than anyone expected, asterisk when the camera started rolling. For Karate Kid Legends 2025, something felt off, at least to longtime fans. While old names like Ralph Macchio, William Zabka, and even Jackie Chan made headlines, Jaden Smith's name was curiously missing. But the truth wasn't just about casting. It was about control, creative direction, and clashing visions, some of which began long before the first teaser trailer ever dropped. Behind closed doors, early planning for Karate Kid Legends was focused on one thing: merging the original 1984 universe with the modern-day Cobra Kai fandom. Sony wanted to build a massive nostalgic reunion, one that would pull together decades of storylines. But here's the twist: Jaden's Karate Kid 2010 never existed in the same timeline as Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. His story was a reboot, not a continuation. It lived in a separate cinematic universe. And when it came time to decide which path Legends would follow, the studio made a tough call. Stick with the Miyagi-verse? Still, fans wonder, was Jaden even asked? According to entertainment insiders close to the project, Jaden was approached in the early talks. But those conversations didn't go far. Sources say the studio pitched a small cameo, possibly a multiverse-style twist or a flashback tribute. But Jaden reportedly wasn't interested in returning for a 1-minute walk-on role. He wanted something meaningful, something that showed growth for Dre Parker. But the producers, focused on fan service and tight timelines, didn't have room for a separate arc. There's more. Around the same time, rumors swirled that creative clashes began to surface. Some insiders claimed Jaden's team asked for more control over the character's direction, possibly even pushing for Dre Parker to lead a new storyline beyond the existing Karate Kid Cobra Kai lore. But the showrunners behind Cobra Kai were building a tight universe, one rooted in Miyagi's teachings, not Mr. Han's. Then there's the matter of Jaden's image. Over the years, he's reinvented himself: musician, fashion icon, and outspoken social voice. His work with Just Water, his performances on stage, and his avant-garde fashion choices have made him a symbol of youth independence. Returning to a role he played at 11 may have felt like going backwards, not forwards. To some, Jaden's absence wasn't rejection. It was evolution. Privately, Sony may have felt the same. While Jaden's Karate Kid was a box office success, it didn't have the same long-lasting emotional connection as the 1984 original. In fan polls, Dre Parker was often seen as part of a separate side path, not the main legacy. The numbers showed it too. Cobra Kai's YouTube and Netflix run gained more than 100 million views per season. That's the legacy Sony wanted to honor. That's where the money and the fandom was pointing. Even Jackie Chan, who returned in a brief mentor role, was tied into the legend's story as a bridge character, but without Jaden, that bridge felt incomplete. And yet, producers decided it was worth the risk. They gambled on fans accepting nostalgia over reboot continuity, and that leaves us with the big question: was Jaden left out? Or did he walk away? Asterisk, the deeper you dig, the clearer it becomes. This wasn't just a casting decision. It was a chess move. Sony and the creative heads behind Karate Kid Legends weren't just making a movie. They were making a statement. A global legacy project. One that had to honor 40 years of martial arts history, keep the Cobra Kai fire burning, and introduce a new generation of fighters. But to do that, they had to make one brutal decision. What story would they carry forward, and what would be left behind? Jaden Smith's version of the Karate Kid was powerful, no doubt, but it stood outside the Miyagi timeline. It had no Daniel LaRusso, no Johnny Lawrence, no Cobra Kai dojo. It was kung fu, not karate, China, not Reseda. Even the message, while heartfelt, followed a different rhythm. So when the studio asked, what do fans connect to emotionally? The answer kept pointing back to the 1984 original, Karate Kid Legends 2025, was shaped to be a crossover event. A no-way-home moment for martial arts fans. Think about it: Ralph Macchio, Hilary Swank, Chosen, Johnny, even Jackie Chan as Mr. Han, all potentially crossing paths in one timeline. That's a massive puzzle. And with such limited screen time, bringing in Dre Parker, whose story lives in a different universe, might have broken the emotional flow. It would raise more questions than answers, but there's more at play: money and marketing. The Cobra Kai series has been Netflix's golden goose. Each season brought huge traffic, viral memes, and fan engagement that even the original films never dreamed of. So the studio doubled down on that universe. They knew that bringing in Daniel, Johnny, and even Tori or Miguel from the series would create emotional payoff. But Dre Parker, he didn't fit that continuity. And in Hollywood, fitting in is everything when billions are on the table. Then comes the question of brand clarity. Sony had to choose: continue two timelines in one movie, or pick the one that fans already emotionally invested in. Blending universes sounds exciting in theory, but for marketing, it creates confusion. Viewers ask, wait, which story counts? That's risky for merchandise, licensing, streaming rights, and global distribution. Clarity sells. Confusion kills franchises. It didn't help that Jaden's career took a very different direction. While the Cobra Kai actors were doing press, fan events, and social media tours, Jaden was touring with artists like Justin Bieber, launching his water brand and walking runways in Paris. His brand had shifted from mainstream to avant-garde. That doesn't match the vibe Karate Kid Legends was aiming for: family, tradition, legacy. So, in the eyes of the studio, it wasn't personal, it was practical. Keep the story clean. Keep the nostalgia strong. And don't dilute the focus with side stories that live outside the legacy fans care most about. Director's story may have mattered in 2010, but in 2025, Sony was telling the story of Mr. Miyagi's world: tight, emotional, and deeply connected to everything that came before. But even if it made business sense, it still left a hole. Fans felt it. You could see it in online forums, comment sections, and Twitter threads. Where is Jaden? Asterisk, when Karate Kid Legends 2025 premiered, the spotlight shined bright on Ralph Macchio, Jackie Chan, and the returning heroes of the Miyagi-verse. But in the shadows of all that hype, one name kept echoing in fan circles: Jaden Smith, and what stood out the most was his silence. Jaden never posted a single word about the new film. No tweets, no cryptic Instagram stories, no podcast appearances, nothing. For someone who's known to speak openly on everything from music to social justice, that silence was louder than any official press release. Was it a quiet protest? A strategic move? Or just indifference? Some fans believe the silence was personal. Jaden once called the Karate Kid 2010 one of the most challenging and meaningful roles of his early life. He trained for months, endured real injuries, took on the pressure of stepping into a classic role under the weight of his father's Hollywood legacy, and he delivered. So, being excluded from the biggest Karate Kid crossover in history, had to sting. Others think the silence was business? Jaden has built a very different image since his acting debut. He's not chasing roles, he's building movements. From launching sustainable water brands to designing gender-fluid fashion lines and releasing experimental music, Jaden has positioned himself as a creative visionary. Returning to a legacy film might have felt like stepping backward into a box he outgrew. His silence may have been his way of saying that chapter's closed. But the fans weren't silent. From Reddit threads to YouTube breakdowns, fan petitions began circulating. Some asked Sony to give Jaden a spinoff. Others demanded that Dre Parker be brought into the Cobra Kai timeline through a multiverse event. A few even created fan trailers imagining Dre training side by side with Miguel and Hawk. The passion was real. Because no matter what the studio says to a generation of fans, Jaden was their Karate Kid. Interestingly, some insiders say the story might not be over. While Jaden wasn't part of Legends 2025, there are quiet rumors of a future spinoff. Sony has seen the fan response. Executives have taken note of how Cobra Kai reshaped the brand into a global hit. They know that blending timelines could work if done right. And who better to carry the next phase than someone like Jaden, who already has the name recognition, training, and a new generation of fans? Jackie Chan, in a recent interview, even teased that Mr. Han has many more lessons to teach, someday. He didn't name Jaden, but fans didn't miss the hint. So maybe Jaden wasn't pushed out. Maybe his return just needed more time. Maybe the studio needed to close one story before beginning another. Or maybe, just maybe, they're saving him for something bigger. Because in the Karate Kid, timing is everything. You don't just fight. When you want, you wait, you breathe. You choose the perfect moment to strike. And maybe that's exactly what Jaden's doing.